What's up everybody, Subaru WRX fan here for another car review. This is the 2007 Subaru WRX Wagon. Huge thanks to That Washer Nerd on YouTube for providing me here with his very clean 2007 WRX Wagon to review for you guys today. Also, big thanks to Vantrue for sponsoring this video. They sent me their new N4 Pro 3-channel dash cam that makes sure you're covered from every angle with the newest 4K Sony Stavis 2 front sensor, a 1080p interior view with infrared sensors for a clear view of your interior even in darkness, and there's another 1080p rear camera to cover what's behind you. The cameras all have high dynamic range as well to make sure that license plates stay visible even in low light conditions with headlights. It also has built-in Wi-Fi to quickly download and share clips, control the cameras, and with the integrated GPS and Vantrue app, you can even track where the clips were taken with Google Maps and even include things like your speed if you want. There's other cool features as well, like voice controls, a parking mode with motion detection, and a supercapacitor battery that ensures that the cameras continue to work even in extreme hot and cold conditions. I've used Vantrue dash cams on my own cars for years, and they've always been solid cameras that can provide priceless footage when you need it the most. So don't go unprotected. Click the link in the description for more info on the Vantrue N4 Pro. So about the WRXs, well, this is the second and final year of the Hawkeye design here, and it was the second year of also the upgraded 2.5 liter motor you got here in the WRXs, which really helped with a mid-range punch, so it wasn't quite as peaky as these earlier WRXs were. And so it's really cool they offered these in a wagon back then, something again we don't have these days sadly, and I think this design has actually aged really well. Like any new WRX, everyone hated it whenever it first came out, but I think over the years it's really aged nicely, and this one especially is so clean and just looks great and is really a great example of, you know, how nice these can look. Anyway, so I love you have this huge hood scoop up front here, and you know, the projector headlights and everything just looked really good. And if you didn't love this styling, you also had the option back then of the Subaru, which is the Saab 92X of this generation, which was a weird collaboration only for the wagon version of the WRX. You could get in a Saab form if you wanted, and those are even more rare than these. But anyway, coming down to the sides here, you have some really nice 17-inch wheels hiding these red brake calipers, which were a new upgrade here for the 2006 model year. You got bigger brakes here to go along with the bigger engine. I always loved the shape of that rear window. I thought it was a cool touch. This one also has that rear spoiler, which I believe was a dealer installed option from Subaru back then, and I think it's a really nice thing, especially these days with huge wings you see on the back of hatches. This was kind of forward thinking with, you know, giving you a wing air on the back of the wagon. And then but also out back there you have those taillights there, the kind of clear look, which was very in vogue back in 2007 there, and the nice large NVIDIA exhaust tip, which is just looks so appropriate on these. It just looks so good. Of course, amplifies the wonderful sound of these boxer engines. And so overall, yeah, I just think these things still look really great. Rates for the interior of the 2007 WRX. Well, it's you know, typical Subaru of this time period, but you know, they were trying to make some improvements to the quality at this point in time. So you have like this silver painting for the center console area here, and you know, looks a little classier than the earlier WRXs for sure. But the first thing, sitting down in these seats, you have these fantastic seats. They really did a nice job of upgrading the seats here for the 2006s and 2007s as well. I mean, great bolstering here in these seats, and I love the cloth. It's, you know, a little bit of a thicker cloth, and just hugs you in nicely, and just, yeah, I feel really good. You also had the option back then of getting heated leather seats in the limited versions of the WRX. Steering wheel is also fantastic, wonderfully simple these days, I have to add as well. No buttons on it whatsoever, even the cruise control stalks on the actual steering column here, but just a great wheel, has a great 9-3 grip and a little 10-2 notches, and a nice thin wheel too. The gauges are also, again, wonderfully simple. They did put the tack in the middle here starting in 2006, so that was a nice improvement here. So it was front and center, and just nice simple gauges, look good. And coming over to the middle here though, you have the original 6-disc in-dash CD changer here, which is a fun relic to, you know, see these days. And you know, but it was also, again, just being silver, I mean, it actually went a long way to make these feel a little classier. And the great thing is it's a double DIN unit, which means you can easily swap in any kind of touchscreen these days with CarPlay and all that. If you want to modernize this interior, it's so easy. And as honestly, I mean, they had no idea back then, but it really future-proofed these so that, you know, it's not a pain to put in an aftermarket stereo if you want to get something more modern. But I love the factory one here in this, and you even had auto climate control here. And so, you know, nothing fancy, but, you know, nice little creature comforts that, you know, were meaningful improvements compared to the, you know, earlier generations of the WRX here. And you know, otherwise, you know, like this one has an auxiliary jack, which is also a really nice thing to help, you know, future-proof it these days. Back seat, you know, isn't super spacious either, even though this is a wagon, it's a 4-door. You know, maybe even being 5'9", sitting behind myself, I have, you know, maybe an inch or so of legroom to spare. I mean, the newer WRXs are miles roomier than these these, you know, were back then. But, you know, gets the job done. You can still, you know, cart around a few of your friends. And then the hatch area here in the WRX wagons are, you know, pretty nice and usable. It's a nice tall space, nice and wide. And, you know, I think it's a very practical vehicle, of course. And you can even drop the rear seats there to give you extra practicality. And, yeah, these are just such a Swiss Army knife of vehicles, having the performance, having the practicality. And it's kind of one of those do-it-all vehicles. But let's start up and go for a drive. Still just had a regular key here on these back in 2007. You did have the keyless access there, which is nice. And same fob I had in my Legacy for years. Brings back memories. But anyway, slip it into the slot here. And it starts right up. All right, so setting off here in the 2007 Subaru WRX Wagon. So the first thing you notice about these, well, this one has a short throw shifter. So that's the first thing that I'm noticing here is it's a nice short shifter. It's a Cartboy one to be exact. And, you know, it's really nice. Just gives you a little bit of extra precision there. They also did improve the transmission, by the way, for 2006 and 2007 for this revision of the WRX, where they give you a stronger and smoother synchro in first gear, which was kind of one of the weak spots of this transmission previously, but still good old 5-speed. Other things you'll notice is, you know, the wonderful communicative nature of an old school Subaru like this. Brakes, you know, just having all the dead travel of a typical Subaru brake pedal, and then, you know, just giving you that good bite with upgraded brakes that you did get here going along with the bigger engine in 2006 into 2007 here. So there are 4-piston rotors in the front, 2 in the rear, and so that's a nice improvement in addition to the eye candy of, you know, having the red on them there. Other things, visibility has always been really good in these as well. You know, you have a great view forward there with that hood scoop, you know, poking up above the hood there, and just a nice small car. You know, vehicles of this generation, it was just very accessible, easy to parallel park, and, you know, squeeze into tight spots. All that kind of stuff was just so nice. And other things here, so I love the steering too. So it's one thing also in 2006, they made the steering a little bit of a quicker ratio, and you can certainly feel that it's, you know, a little bit more precise. It's been many years, admittedly, since I drove the 2003 WRX Wagon, but, you know, from my recollection of that, this just feels a little bit tighter. And this, you know, the wonderful lightweight nature of these two is great. You know, these only weighed a little over 3,200 pounds. And as you might be able to tell, this is not an ordinary stock WRX. This one is JR tuned, and it's got an extra bit of power. We'll get into the horsepower numbers and all that in here in a second. But as you can hear, it's got an NVIDIA N1 exhaust on it, along with a Cobb downpipe. We have a Cobb intake and a few of the other supporting mods for the Pro Tune that this vehicle has. And you get that great blow-off sound there with the intake as well. And the exhaust sounds so good. It's just, it's so much wonderful drama. I mean, this thing has personality in spades compared to the current modern WRXs, which are just so sanitized. They're fun and amazing in their own ways. But if you are a old school Subaru WRX fan like myself, I mean, it doesn't get better than this. You know, the boxer motor, the 2.5 especially, was a great improvement here in these. And it's just, man, I miss hearing that sound all the time. It was such a nice sound. This thing really, you can tell it wants to take off. It is desperately trying to do an acceleration on me here. But let's turn down onto this back road here and see how it does. Here we go. Man, this thing flies. Oh yeah, it really is strong. And man, so much nice mid-range there, and just it pulls like a champ. Especially it's nice and cold here today, so it's it's doing a really good job of pulling nice and hard here. So this one with this junior tune has it's running about 287 all-wheel horsepower and about 354 pound-feet of torque to the wheels. And so, I mean, a nice healthy improvement over what these made factory. Now, they were supposedly underrated from the factory as well. The official rating was 230 horsepower, 235 pound-feet of torque in 2006. In 2007, they changed the way they rated horsepower, so it dropped down to 224 horsepower and about 227 pound-feet of torque. But, you know, so they were probably a little underrated. Back then, it was a nice improvement, but it wasn't a huge jump from the 227 horsepower of the 2-liter. But, you know, it was really the mid-range punch that you got, so you didn't have to wait till $4,000 to have any kind of power like you had with those earlier WRXs. But, of course, this thing is now a fire-breathing monster here with just wanting to pull like crazy. And yeah, I think, you know, the brakes definitely was nice. They gave you a brake upgrade here in these. These ones aren't the freshest brakes out there, but I think, you know, that is definitely one thing whenever you have this kind of power. You know, bigger brakes are certainly a good thing. It's good that Subaru thought to, you know, increase the, you know, size of those brakes there to accommodate the extra power of this engine, and these days the extra potential of the 2.5 over the 2-liter. Yeah, I mean, it's also, you know, this transmission's really good, even though, you know, it didn't love being rushed even back then. You know, it still keeps up great these days, and, you know, it's not, there's no rev hang, any of the modern problems we have with modern manual transmission. You don't have any of that here. It's all nice and natural and just feels great. And also, I have to say, you know, this one is on the factory suspension, and it's a nice smooth ride too. It's, you know, a pretty, I guess, refined vehicle, honestly, for these days. I mean, even like this road we're on, I guess the exhaust drowns out some of the road noise a little bit, but I mean, you know, it doesn't have a ton of road noise. It's, you know, it feels like it'd be a really nice daily driver. But coming up some corners here, and let's see how the WRX Wagon handles. So we do have some Michelin Pilot Sport all-season tires on here, definitely giving us a little bit more grip. But wow, it is, yeah, it feels really nice. Now, there's definitely a little bit of roll and a little bit of lean. It's not as flat as, you know, a modern WRX or anything like that. Definitely more play in the suspension and, you know, and all that. But it compensates for that by, again, being nice and light. And, yeah, punching it coming out of the corner there, it obviously puts the power down great with the Subaru all-wheel drive system everyone knows and loves. But yeah, it just handles really nicely. Its steering is so communicative. You feel everything. I mean, there's definitely some sway here, and I know even like with my Legacy back in the day, I put sway bars on it to help, you know, tighten that up, and that's certainly something that's, you know, is a very popular mod. But even without it, you know, it's still, it gives you confidence, and, you know, it just grips, especially with these modern tires, definitely giving you even more grip. But it gives you a lot of confidence still, and the lightweight, again, gives you more confidence as well, that you can chuck it in, and it just powers itself right out of the corner really nicely. And I mean, it's a car that is just made for back roads. It loves this stuff. It just wants to be hustled, and you can tell it really comes alive with the suspension, you know. And it's also impressive that, you know, this stock suspension setup is keeping up really well with even this extra amount of power. You know, it doesn't feel uneven or, you know, unmatched. It still is able to, you know, deal with the higher speeds of, you know, the extra power this thing has, and yeah, it just does a really good job. This is a car, it's really capable that I can go way faster than I should in this thing, and it'll take it all day. It'll just keep going faster and faster on your favorite back road, and it's just so much fun to do it too in this. And we'll do another acceleration here, because why not? Roll into it this time a little bit. Man, this thing. Oh, it's so much fun. It brings me back to my Subaru days, and anyone who's watched this channel for a long time knows I have a deep love for these things. And so maybe you can write this review off as being biased for this one, but I mean, it was really just an uncommon combo back then, you know, of having a manual transmission with all-wheel drive with turbocharged power. I mean, that's why these, you know, have been beloved for decades and are just, you know, still sought after, still valuable vehicles, because they just have this unique appeal that's, you know, no one ever really fully matched. I mean, you have other vehicles these days that, you know, try and fill the niche, and there's, you know, obviously lots of awesome, great performance manual all-wheel drive hot hatches these days with Focus RSs and GR Corollas and stuff like that. But, you know, you get that same kind of fun for, like the owner of this one, you know, paid roughly 10 grand for it. You know, for a quarter of the price of a GR Corolla, you have the same kind of fun. So it's really a solid bargain if you can find a nice clean one that's in good shape. And I can even feel the front wheels were tugging at me a little bit there with the all-wheel drive system, putting the power down here, but it does a great job. And of course, these things are just super good in the snow and all that as well. And so that's also, you know, a nice little perk of, you know, this Subaru's here versus many of the competitors back then, which didn't have that. You know, if you were trying to drive a Mazda Speed 3 in rain, or even, you know, a tuned GTI or something, good luck. You know, you're going to have wheel spin for days. With this, you know, you can really do it all. And so especially if you're someone who lives in an area that, you know, gets bad weather, you know, the WRX is still kind of this very unique thing that can't really be beaten in a lot of ways. And we're going to have some more corners here, just because it's too much fun. I'm not going to give you any more valuable insight here or anything, but just because it's just fun and so enjoyable to just take this thing on a back road and just ride the wave of torque torque you get with these turbo motors, especially this one again having the extra power here. It's just there's nothing like it still. And I mean, again, like I said, the new WRX is more capable, flatter, more composed. But you know, I think the involvement that you get honestly with the extra body motions is actually really nice, because you can really pitch it in and it's more dramatic. You know, there's something to be said for less capability, honestly. That, you know, it's one of those things, driving a slow car fast is a little more exciting than a fast car slow. And I think with the new WRXs, you can kind of apply that same mentality here, where, you know, the lower limits, the extra movement there, I mean, it was, you know, I could shift it around. That's something you don't get to do with the new one. And so, yeah, it's just really, really fun and fantastic on a back road. Again, no new revelations here for anybody, but just bears repeating, these things are still just so much fun. They hold up so well here even in the year 2023. But yes, there's not really a whole lot else to say about these WRXs aside from the fact that they are just pretty easy to drive too. You know, that's one thing I love. It's pretty easy to rev match your downshifts, and everything is so old school that it's really easy to master, and just it all feels really nice. And but yeah, the only other things I mentioned here briefly I want to talk about are the fuel economy and pricing. So, you know, fuel economy wise, these are rated at 20 in the city, 27 on the highway back in 2007. The owner of this one saying he's getting about 18 is what he's seeing here with the tune, which honestly isn't bad for, you know, 354 pound-feet of torque. Obviously the lightness of this really helps, but you know, I mean, I think 18 mpg, obviously it's not amazing for a 4-cylinder, especially in modern times. But honestly, when I had a brand new 2022 WRX that I drove for a week, that was getting about 18 as well in the winter. So I mean, you know, it's not like you know, this is wildly unacceptable even by Subaru standards for 2023 supposedly. So you know, it's just par for the course over the turbo motor. And of course, it'll come down to your mileage as far as how many mods you do, how much you know get in the turbo boost and all that. But you know, just keep in mind, it's not going to be the most fuel efficient thing, even though it is a 4-cylinder. And then the last thing to mention, though, I just thought it was fun to talk about pricing for a split second, because whenever the WRX TRs, which was the cheapest tuner-ready version of these back in the day, they stickered right under $25,000 back in 2006, 2007. And they announced that pricing in 2005, so I'm talking about 2006. But it doesn't make much of a difference whether you're talking about 2005 or 2006 or 2007 for that matter, because when you adjust it for inflation, that $25,000 or so these days comes out to about $38,000, which is just a wonderful illustration of how affordable Subaru has kept the new WRXs. That, you know, these, whenever they came out, it was, you know, an affordable, great little vehicle, and I mean, that price sounds great, but whenever you again adjust it for the wacky prices we have these days, this was actually, you know, not as cheap as people may remember. And so it's just kind of impressive that, you know, these days we have these newer WRXs which are so capable, even faster, more safe, you know, more luxurious, all that, for relatively less money whenever you take that into account. And it just shows us how, even in modern times here, I know there's less to pick from these days in the especially sport compact segment here, but you have, you know, a ton of performance these days for less money, relatively speaking, than even back then, which is kind of wild. And but yeah, these things are just, they hold up really well. I mean, this one again has almost 123,000 miles on it here, and the interior is still tight. There's honestly no rattles or anything either. I mean, this one is really well taken care of, it seems. But you know, these can hold up really well. They can be reliable if you do the mods right, if you take care of them. You know, they will have the capacity to treat you well. And it's so fun too, just the playfulness of, you know, the handling here whenever you get on it at low speeds. It's so much fun. And these things are real gems. If you can, you know, find one of these that hasn't been, you know, taken to hell and back, I mean, these things are going to be such fun cars, and well worth the investment, well worth, again, just the value you get these days of, you know, 10 grand or so, even for a nice clean one like this. And, you know, the amount of fun you have per dollar is just, you know, through the roof compared to, you know, other modern vehicles these days. And so just absolutely love these things. Huge thanks once again to That Washer Nerd for allowing me to review his very nice WRX here. It's been a very fun trip down memory lane, and just reminds me of the greatness that Subaru had back then, and just the phenomenal vehicles that these were. So anyway, that's all of my thoughts here on it. Let me know your thoughts on the 2007 WRX in the comments below. But anyway, thank you guys very much for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Take care.